Artificial intelligence learns, explores, and generates systems responses in the event of extreme events or unplanned situations. For this effort, we are focused on the ability to use science and address science goals of the Department of Energy to fortify the nation's power grid over the upcoming decades, factoring multiple emerging threats to the power system is one of the main things that we are focused on addressing. AI promises to play a key role supporting the DOE's Grid Modernization Lab Consortium in optimizing critical mitigation and adaptation strategies such as line undergrounding, vegetation management, as well as planning the transition to low carbon infrastructure as our climate changes and to support underserved and disadvantaged communities. We hope research like this will allow the DOE and you to better plan infrastructure investments based on intensified and modeled risk to the system. We can't think of a greater opportunity to make a difference and change the world than the things that you are doing. We would like to thank our partners, subject matter experts, faculty, and of course the amazing research team for helping to pave the way.
Hello, my name is Trier Mortlock, and we are the FDL Climate Adaptation Group aiming to fortify the grid. The current state of the US power grid is grim. Our aging grid is subject to constant stress, and infrastructure often fails due to overdue and insufficient investment. Our nation's grid is also confronting the changing climate as extreme weather events cause a growing majority of outages each year. During outage crises, lives are literally on the line, evident in the fatal grid failure in the 2021 Texas winter storm. Power grid operators face the unique challenge of digesting and processing a storm of information in real time. While grid simulators are available for research purposes as well as operator use, these tools often lack integration of environmental data, like that from extreme weather events. To address these concerns, AI can assist grid operators in their determination of what to do next during a crisis situation. This integrated model can ingest geophysical data using the behavior of extreme weather events in order to anticipate faults and thus help determine the best decisions for the operator to make. Here are the three core proposals guiding our model design and research. First, can we realistically generate power line faults from extreme weather events? Second, can we develop a machine learning agent that recommends grid operation actions? Thirdly, can we promote equity in decision-making by informing the operator of grid action impacts on vulnerable communities? I will now turn it over to Julian to introduce our workflow and discuss the data pipeline.
Thank you, Trier. We now present GridWorld, a human-in-the-loop grid control framework for grid operators. GridWorld aims to support us in our missions to minimize energy loss and improve climate resilience while promoting equitable decision-making. Our workflow has three sections: data fusion on the left, our grid agent in the center, and then the operational interface on the right. Our input datasets consist of socioeconomic information derived from the 2020 census, meteorological data that pertaining to two extreme weather types, hurricanes and wildfires, and our synthetic grid topology, a handcrafted 118 bus design modified from the IEEE to represent the Texas power grid, ERCOT. Let's first discuss the data fusion process. This first step integrates geospatial data into the grid model, outputting the time and location of a grid fault via transmission tower fragility curves. In the case of hurricanes, we use hourly 10-meter wind speeds from ERA 5 reanalysis data. 8 historical hurricanes, 3 shown here, are overlaid onto the Texas grid topology. For each event, several fault variations are created due to the probabilistic nature of the fragility curve present at each element of our topology. An additional type of extreme weather we integrate into grid world is the wildfire. Because wildfire dynamics occur at a much smaller scale than our grid, we choose to model tower fragility for wildfires as binary. If a fire intersects a transmission tower, fault occurs. Let's now discuss the grid agent's design with Hashmith.
Thank you, Julian. Now we present our grid agent, which operates on the extreme weather outage events generated in part 1. Grid World is built upon GridSwap AI-compatible gem, whereby the agent interacts with the environment, comprising the grid topology, hazards, and power flow chronics. The gem environment allows the RL agent to receive observations, which it then takes actions on to receive a reward based on the survival rate and available line capacity of the system as a whole. By utilizing this framework, we are able to explore all potential scenarios with little risk to critical infrastructure or equipment. Here is the example of the actions and observations from one of the scenarios. As you can see on the right, the agent is taking multiple actions like set line status, set bus status, in addition to energy charge or discharge based on the generation and load observations on the left. On the left, you can see the performance of the two agents, the do nothing that perform no actions and the expert agent who has full knowledge about the actual state of the grid. Both struggle to perform in the face of extreme weather events as displayed with the fire icon. Our reinforcement learning agent was built with the proximal policy optimization, or also known as PPO algorithm. As shown on the right, the agent can operate in the presence of fire attack with near optimal performance. I will now turn it over to Pat to introduce our operational interface.
Thank you, Hashmat. The final part of our pipeline is the operational interface. We integrate socioeconomic data, such as poverty rate from 2020 Census Bureau to identify the lines serving the vulnerable populations. You can see that many of the vulnerable lines that are serving low-income communities are the same as the line being affected by Hurricane Carla. With this analysis, we could predict the number of people being affected by the hurricane and plan the intervention accordingly. We identified a group of critical lines in the power grid that generally need to be fortified. These lines highlighted in red are the lines that would lead to immediate game over or blackout. This discovery can be used for long-term interventions, such as putting this specific line underground, doubling the lines, and adding power storage in the area. Again, these are the three modules of our grid world framework: the data fusion, the grid agent, and the operational interface. Now, let's imagine what the future with grid world would look like. Let's see how stakeholders can use our platform in action during the crisis. In the future, our system would allow the grid operator to predict which power lines and auto infrastructure may be affected by the disaster. The grid operator received the agent's recommendation through visualization, ensuring that the recommendations are explainable and actionable. The agent would also predict the outcome of the recommended actions in terms of socioeconomic impact, so the operator can be more informed about their actions. Our system can also be used by policymakers to identify the long-term development plan by identifying the most vulnerable areas to invest on in the future. In conclusion, we developed a framework of an AI agent that could assist the grid operator in making more informed decisions by processing extreme weather events as well as socioeconomic data to ensure the security of our energy future. With that, I would like to end our presentation with a wonderful picture of the team behind this project. We would like to thank the DOE and FDL team for supporting our work. And with that, welcome to Grid World. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, team. That was extraordinary. And again, here we are demonstrating the ability of these tools and the FDL challenges and approach to understand the future, predict the future, and prepare for the future. So we're going to jump right into the why it matters panel. I don't think we have to ask the question why it matters in this particular case, James. It seems that would be pretty obvious. Let me introduce our panelists for this discussion on the disaster response. We have Ritwik Gupta from UC Berkeley. We have Joni Bradley from the Department of Energy and Rahul Ramachandran from NASA. joining James and myself. So welcome, everybody. I will ask us to keep comments somewhat brief because we're running a little bit behind schedule. But let's start with you, Ritwik, since I'm seeing you front and center on my screen.
Yeah, great work to both teams. This is really cool. As many people know, disasters have multiple stages. There's preparation, there's the response and recovery. And both of these technologies will enable us to do a much better job of the response and recovery stages. During wildfires, it's always people look at the news and say, wow, this fire is big, it must be really bad. But what people don't understand is that burn severity matters much more. The hotter it burns, the more hydrophobic soil becomes, the more roots are completely destroyed, which opens you up to flash flooding, which opens you up to all sorts of adverse events downstream. And if we don't understand just how bad the burn severity was, well, we can't do much to then respond to it. And likewise, for our power grids, they're fragile. And if wildfires or other disasters destroy them, and we don't know in what way those power systems were destroyed, they were impacted, we don't know how to control the downstream impacts of those outages. And so both teams are doing a fantastic jobs of helping us respond and recover to disasters. I'm really looking forward to where some of their work goes.
Excellent. Thank you, Ritwik. Johnny, what's your take on what you've just observed?
So in short, wow. I mean, that's like the first thing that comes to mind. So I want to speak about two areas. I want to start with the wildfires really quickly. My daughter is actually a firefighter, and her and I have lengthy conversations about fires. We've never had this conversation about wildfires. So after all of this is done and at the end of my day, whereas I have been thoroughly educated, I plan to educate her in some areas that she has never brought up to me when it came to fuel loads. And maybe because she didn't think I would understand, I'm not sure, but now we can have the conversation because now I understand. I want to tell you that was just absolutely magnificent. I mean, I completely understood. I didn't have to be out there to fight a fire to understand the black ash, the white ash, the unburned areas, you know what I'm saying? So it's just great to be able to get that type of information. And now, even though I used to be against my daughter being a firefighter, it will bring us closer because now I have more fuel to put to the fire whenever her and I have these conversations. Did you catch that? Okay, got it. All right.
Very good.
Yes, so now moving on, and I don't want to take up too much time. I do want to commend the group on the grid about using data from underserved communities, I'll say, because a lot of times that data is either not as prevalent, it doesn't have as much to it, but at least there was enough here in this case for you all to be able to add that into your model. And it's good that you started there, I would say, because that's what I was speaking to in the very beginning in the panel, is where you have these energy burdens and this energy injustice, right? And where some lights come on early, other lights may come on later on, but those individuals in those low income areas, they're actually losing more than just heat or air, they're losing food, right? And if they're low income, they can't buy that food, but they get that segment of money once a month. So it's very interesting that you use that data, and I commend you for that. It's a lot of people that would actually be very thankful to know that they're being considered when they think that they're not. I'm one of those people that pass the word, and I will do so. So with that, I'll end my piece there. Okay?
Thanks so much, and a very important perspective. Rahul?
Yeah, I don't think I need to add anything more to why, but I think great job by the two teams. I think the grid world, what stood out to me was the amazing use of different kinds of data set. That is, I'm sure it must have taken you many weeks of just data munging to handle the data fusion part of it. The wildfire to me was super interesting. I think there's immense value. In fact, when I was watching your presentation, I was thinking, how can I incorporate this into our own research to operations workflow? So maybe we can have a conversation later to see how we can utilize your work. So again, great job, both teams.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rahul.